Caffeine is the most abused stimulant in the world. Roughly 75% of all Americans drink coffee every single day, and most of them drink 4 to 5 cups daily. Not to mention that almost 3 billion cups of coffee are made every single day, which makes coffee the most enjoyed beverage in the world. Your day probably looks like this. You wake up, you go make yourself a cup of coffee, just to feel energized enough to go about your day. Drinking coffee or tea is so hyper-normalized that we tend to forget that caffeine is actually a drug, a stimulant that we are drinking. In this video, I'm going to teach you all about the positives and the negatives of drinking caffeine and how to safely enjoy this delicious drink. The benefits of caffeine are very obvious. I mean, you've experienced them yourself. You get a boost in focus and mental clarity. You feel more energetic and less sleepy. But why do you feel this way? You see, inside of your brain, from the moment you wake up until the moment you fall asleep, there is a chemical that's building up called adenosine. This adenosine buildup is dubbed sleep pressure by scientists, and it's the reason you gradually feel sleepier throughout the day. So basically, the longer you're awake, the more adenosine binds to your brain and the sleepier you feel. Now, it's important that you know this because the cool thing about caffeine is that it blocks adenosine by sitting in the receptor where adenosine is supposed to go. So you can just visualize a parking lot where adenosine goes, and whenever you drink coffee or tea, caffeine travels up to that parking lot and parks in the spaces where adenosine is supposed to go. And so the adenosine cars just sort of pile up and wait for the caffeine cars to drive off. This is also why when you drink caffeine right after you wake up, you feel a really big dip in energy in the afternoon. All of the caffeine cars drive off and the adenosine cars just sort of rush into the now empty spaces, which makes you feel a lot more tired in a very short amount of time. So when should you drink coffee to minimize these side effects? If you drink it too late in the day, it will mess with your sleep, and if you drink it too early, you'll feel too tired too soon. Well, turns out there's a sweet spot. There's just enough time for you to not mess with your sleep, and it will minimize the crash. See, when you first wake up, your body isn't done flushing out all of the adenosine. So you should avoid drinking caffeine because it could block the adenosine inside of the receptor. So about 1 to 2 hours after waking up is just enough time for your body to be done flushing the rest of the adenosine. And 10 hours before going to sleep, because the half-life of caffeine is 5 hours. So you just have to double that for all of the caffeine to be flushed out of your body. So that is the favorite time to eat or drink your favorite caffeinated foods or drinks. Now you'd notice that I said caffeinated foods, because if you didn't know already, it's not just tea or coffee that has caffeine inside of them. In fact, caffeine is so commonplace in a lot of foods that we eat on a daily basis. And the reason being is they want you to associate the positive feelings of ingesting caffeine with their product, which is evil, sure, but it's important to be aware of it. So chocolates, sodas, chewing gum, and any chocolate-flavored foods have some level of caffeine inside of them. Maybe not enough to have a drastically negative effect on your sleep schedule, but you should definitely avoid having a Snickers bar in the evening. But now an important question poses itself. If we know when it's okay to drink coffee, how much should we drink? Professor Andrew Huberman, who is a famous neuroscientist and podcast owner, says that about 400 milligrams of caffeine is just about enough. That is how much caffeine you can drink without it affecting you. For those of you wondering how many cups of coffee that is about 4 or 5, assuming your mug is only 200 milliliters or 8 ounces. But what if you work out? Taking pre-workout late in the afternoon is probably not good for you. Personally speaking, I wouldn't want to rely on caffeine to hit a PR in the gym if it's at the cost of the quality of my sleep. But if you still plan on taking it, then try to time it between that 4-hour safe zone we mentioned earlier. So in conclusion, can you be addicted to caffeine? The answer is yes. Caffeine can be addictive, and because it is placed in a lot of foods and drinks without our knowledge, you can become a lot more reliant on it than you think. See, my dad has headaches if he doesn't drink his daily cup of coffee in the morning. So he's very reliant on caffeine. And an extra side effect that we didn't talk about is that your brain tries to compensate for the extra caffeine that's blocking the adenosine by creating more adenosine receptors. Basically, just imagine the parking lot is expanded, which means you need to drink more caffeine to block it next time. And eventually you're gonna have to be drinking buckets of caffeine just to feel a thing. And when you try to stop because there's more adenosine spaces, you will feel a lot more tired every day. So make sure to limit the amount of coffee you drink per day. And if you don't feel tired, don't drink coffee. So so that you can still feel energetic when you actually need it. This is quite a different style of videos from my usual content, so if you enjoyed this video then please subscribe and relentlessly push forward.